Hi, you're on the edge with me, Max Keiser. The global economy is still crashing. There's still this raging debate about inflation versus deflation. The dollar looks horrible. Have you seen the dollar? It looks absolutely horrible. And gold is inching to new all-time highs. Now, Globe, I have a question for you. Why are Americans so, out of their minds? You've got people who are in the streets arguing that they want the insurance monopolists to raise the cost of their health care. They're out in the streets protesting that they want their health care cost raised. Look at this. Look at these morons. They're in the street begging that the insurance companies raise their costs for their health care. They are morons. Morons. Morons.
Than taxes or slavery. But if we do not repent, will we not be judged? Have we already not been warned?
That guy is an idiot. He's arguing to have his health care costs raised. He's a moron! Shocking. Well, later on in the show, we're going to be talking with economist Steve Keen, and pretty soon up here we've got Stacey Herbert, but I want to show you another video. This is what's really going on. On the grassroots level, while you've got these hordes of people in the streets arguing that they want more expensive and worse health care for the benefit of the monopolists and the oligopolists and the oligarchy that has taken control now that Obama is officially asleep at the switch. The guy is like the invisible president. He never does anything. You've got people actually formulating a grassroots protest against the oligopoly. I point to this as an example.
And now I have a message to Bank of America and to all the big banks who are robbing our current middle-class citizens and robbing our children and grandchildren of any hope of a middle-class standard of living in their future. So here goes. You are evil, thieving.
Beep.
You have reaped ungodly profits in your behemoth casino scams, then...
Is that true? Has Bank of America reaped ungodly profits as part of their huge monolithic behemoth behavior? Absolutely.
Only to turn around and usurp the wealth of this great nation by the outright rape and pillage of middle-class Americans whose sweat and toil built it.
All right. So this woman who's on YouTube, and she's got almost 150 or 160,000 views in less than 3 days. She's formulating a grassroots response. She's actually on the edge of what's really happening, which is that the banking system, which Obama gave a free pass when he came into office and just said, here's $3, $4, $5, $13 trillion. Do what you may. We're not going to hold you accountable. She's actually pushing back hopefully in a grassroots efforts that will actually have some impact. So let's talk with financial commentator Stacey Herbert. Stacey Herbert, welcome back to the show.
Max, good to be here.
All righty. So what do you make of all this? What's going on?
Well, you talk about the invisible president, and you bring up a video of a woman who's starting a grassroots effort against Bank of America, who, by the way, remember, has received $45 billion in cash from the U.S. taxpayer and $118 billion in backing of their debt. We don't know how many trillions they've got in debts on the Federal Reserve balance sheet, but they are in the news this week. The headline reads, Judge rejects SEC Bank of America deal. Cuomo preps charges. So in the remember that when Bank of America agreed to buy Merrill Lynch last year at the height of when the markets were crashing ferociously, remember when Hank Paulson and George Bush rescued the financial system in secret, well, with lots of taxpayer money, but didn't tell us what the terms of the deals were. So it turns out that Merrill, with the knowledge of Bank of America, paid Merrill employees $3.6 billion in bonuses. They accelerated those bonuses to make sure their bonuses were paid before the deal with Bank of America went through. Now, this was despite losing $27.6 billion for the year, their biggest ever in the history of Merrill Lynch. Now, the important part comes when Bank of America needed their shareholder approval to buy Merrill Lynch. But they sent out a letter to their investors and said that they were not paying bonuses to Merrill Lynch executives. So the fact that they did, they've been found to have materially false and misleading information to their investors, and the SEC fined them $33 million.
Right. Well, these are the banks that are operating like financial predators, simply confiscating wealth from the system, from the taxpayers. And these are the same banks that Obama, in his recent speech on Wall Street, says, hey, banks on Wall Street, I'm going to leave it to you guys and your own good intentions to reform yourself. Okay? That's absurd. That's like going to cancer and saying, hey, cancer, I want you to cure yourself because we don't want to interrupt your business as a cancer. Obama is absolutely abdicating his role as an executive in charge. How can he think that these banks are going to regulate themselves when they act in this way like Merrill did, stealing, outright theft?
Well, Max, of course, but it's all the regulators who are failing to regulate the banks. And luckily for the American people, this judge, Jed Rakoff, has stepped in.
I'm mad!
But he stepped in and has ordered a court hearing. So he's negated this deal with the SEC for $33 million. And by the way, Merrill Lynch and Bank of America conceded no wrongdoing in this deal with the SEC. And now in the ruling, the judge said, quote, that the settlement suggests a rather cynical relationship between the parties. The SEC gets to claim that it is exposing wrongdoing on the part of the Bank of America in a high-profile merger. The bank's management gets to claim that they have been coerced into an onerous settlement by overzealous regulators.
That's like saying Charles Manson had a cynical relationship with Sharon Tate. The use of the word cynical is inappropriate here. They were completely and without question violating in a most financially violent manner. That's not cynical. That is financial terrorism.
Well, we'll see when the case goes to court February 1st, 2010. But the concluding statement in the judge's ruling was that, and all this is done at the expense not only of the shareholders, but also of the truth. And there's been very, very little truth in anything of the trillions and trillions of dollars that have now been spent on bailing out a select few bankers.
Where's my money? That's my money! Where's my money? All right, what else you got? Anything else, or is that pretty much the sum total of the observation of the Bank of America sweetheart deal with the so-called regulators?
Well, there is another story along those lines, and that is AG prepping charges against B of A execs. This is New York's Attorney General Andrew Cuomo is going to file civil charges against Bank of America for failure to disclose Merrill Lynch losses and the bonus payouts. So there could be finally some perp walks for this whole financial disaster. Hopefully it's just the beginning of many.
Well, this is the amazing thing, going back to the savings and loan crisis, Stacey Herbert. If you recall, hundreds of executives were marched off to jail as part of the underhanded thieving that went on. So far in this scandal, we've had maybe one or two. You had a Bernie Madoff. But there are hundreds of executives who committed, quite unbelievable financial crimes that even have not yet been prosecuted, and we don't see them being marched off to jail. This is absolutely remarkable. I personally feel as if I am desirous, if you will, to return to Wall Street because apparently you just open up the safe and steal all the money you want and nobody bothers to stop you. What a fantastic, they're looting. It's a double standard. When the neighborhoods in America are on fire and people are running into stores and stealing television sets, oh my God, look at all that looting. Here you have banks like Merrill Lynch and Bank of America throwing open the vaults of American taxpayer money and looting.
Max, the actual number on those savings and loans executives who actually did jail time were 1,800. It's just a bit over. So it was that much, yeah. So I think there were only something like 3,000 savings and loans at the time. So, but I have one final story before we wrap up, and that is, speaking of Bank of America and speaking of credit cards, is that woman that you showed at the opening was refusing to pay her credit card bill, is one of the primary reasons that politicians gave for bailing out banks with so much of the taxpayers' cash was ensure that they continued lending.